Hi, Nikki. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Ray, and I am the founder of Coexistent. Um, if if you wouldn't mind telling giving people a little bit of a background story of uh, like, if you wouldn't mind giving people a little bit of a background story of like being diagnosed and what your diagnosis is, that would be phenomenal.
Okay, I'm Nicole Kennedy, and I'm so happy to be here. I have schizophrenia, and I was diagnosed about a year ago on my birthday, actually. And I had been living with schizophrenia for at least a year, I would say, possibly more. It came on very slowly for me. And yeah, um,
So
it, oh, go ahead.
when I first I reached out to you and you told me you had schizophrenia, and like you're such a positive person, I'm kind of curious, like how did you find out? Like what made you question if you had like why did you go get diagnosed?
Well, I had a psychotic episode and my roommate found out, and then so she called my parents and told them what was going on. She didn't know that it was psychosis. She didn't know what was happening to me. Um, and so I ended up in the hospital, and he gave me a medication because he said my thoughts were scattered, and that he would give me medication that would help my thoughts be more clear. And he didn't know what it was. He questioned that it was either episodic psychosis or a diagnosis of bipolar, but he thought it was just a one-time thing. And so I didn't really get diagnosed in this first hospital stay. Um, it was actually about a month after that where I started Googling what brief psychosis was, and it said that it could only last for a month or less. And I thought, well, that's definitely not what I have. And so I started doing my research about what my medication was used for, and it said it was used for people with schizophrenia. And so then I started researching, what is schizophrenia? And right then and there, like, I read what the symptoms were, and I was like, wow, I have that. Like the highs and lows, and thinking that you can hear other people's thoughts and that people can hear your thoughts, and thinking you're magic. And I knew right away I have schizophrenia. And so I had to go to the ER, and I told them what I was experiencing, and they were like, "Oh yeah, like that's no problem. We just bump up your medication." Um, but that didn't work. It actually took another hospital stay, and I had to get treated for my anxiety before anything got better.
That's amazing. Not amazing, but I feel like the fact that you were able to go and be like, you know what, I need help. Because I know with a lot of people in the community, taking that first initiative to go and seek more help is so important. So I would actually like to ask you, like, why were you why were you so willing to get more help? And then what happened after the second your second hospital visit?
Well, I was really scared. Because I didn't know what was happening to me. And even the idea of having schizophrenia, like, that is something scary to have to come to terms with. It's like there's no way around it. It's um it's not very well represented in the media, and the books are even outdated. Like, I went to the library, and I was reading books, and the first books that I opened, one said why an asylum is necessary, and I'm like,
Oh,
well, that book is out of date. Like, there's no asylums anymore. And so I read another book, and it said why are schizophrenics so violent, and I was like, well, that's not really the right representation either. And so I was really scared. And so, yeah, I guess it was all that I had, was to go through the medical system. And yeah,
I
I'm glad that I did.
taking it back because I when I met you, you're very, very upbeat and you're positive and you have like a lot of these cool hobbies. And so I've heard of people with schizophrenia. I've worked with people with schizophrenia, but I feel like the only time people actually say, "Oh, well, that person's schizophrenic," is when they're doing something bad. So there's a complete misrepresentation of what schizophrenia looks like on the day-to-day basis. So if you wouldn't mind, like, could you kind of go into details about like some of the myths that are out there?
For sure, yeah. Um, well, one of the biggest myths is that people with schizophrenia are violent, and um, people with schizophrenia are no more violent than any other person in the population. The percentages are the same, and so yeah, that's probably the biggest one. And that the representation of schizophrenia is like the homeless person that you see on the street that's talking to themselves and probably has substance abuse problems too. And that is what people see and say, like, oh, that's schizophrenia. You know, that's what people think that schizophrenia is this very obvious expression of it, when really there's probably people in their workplace that have schizophrenia that just haven't disclosed it.
And for like some of the people that are out there and like they're like, I think I might have, and I know you're not a doctor and you're not diagnosing it, but if you could go into a little bit of details of some of the symptoms that you personally experience, and then after that, go into how you manage yourself, because I think that's very important.
For sure. Well, I'm lucky because I went on a new medication
Mhm.
and I haven't had symptoms for about 3 months now. So I'm in remission, I would say, and my doctor's thinking about reducing my medications. But when I was sick, what
Mhm.
I was experiencing was believing that I was magic and really like extremely spiritual and extremely like religious and extremely paranoid. I was paranoid of so many things. I was paranoid that um, the government were after me. People were hacking my phone. People were hacking my computer. People were going to abduct me. I was paranoid of so many things, and paranoia can show up in so many different ways. One other big symptom that I know other people with schizophrenia have mentioned that's in the earlier stages is feeling like you're always being watched. Um, so if you ever have that feeling like you're always being watched, that might be early stage psychosis. Um, some other things were that people on the other side of the TV are watching you, and um, Hmm. Also, intense anxiety, like debilitating anxiety, comes with it. I also thought that I was an empath, and so I thought that I could feel other people's feelings. And everything that I was feeling, I was like, oh, this is somebody else's. And then
Mhm.
I was hearing other people's thoughts. So, like, what a doctor would call voices, I thought I was hearing other people's thoughts.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. And I think that's a really good point, right? Because I know a lot of people when they think of somebody who's hallucinating, they assume like the extreme version of hallucination, but I
Mm-hmm.
don't think they understand like some hallucinations or like hearing someone's thoughts isn't so much a like it's how would you like because I think we see the extreme version of it, but is there
Right.
any how to
Yeah,
huh?
hallucinations. It's like I didn't even realize that I was hallucinating. I was having these voices play in my head and I thought I was hearing other people's thoughts, and that's the auditory hallucination. But also you can have hallucinations with all five of your senses. So I thought ghosts were touching me and I would smell the scents of sweetgrass and sage and I
Hmm.
would think that these spirits were blessing me. And so smell and taste and touch, those all can be hallucinations. But for me, it was mainly about like ghosts touching me and different things like that. And it wasn't scary. That's the biggest thing. So most people would go to the doctor if they were worried about something bad happening, but I didn't think it was like a bad thing. I thought it was just it was just my life.
Yeah. And that's really important to say, right? Because it's like you really didn't go out you really didn't go out for help until, you went through psychosis. But like as you're explaining, like psychosis isn't the whole picture, right? And
Right.
so I would love for, because me and you have been in touch for a while. I would love to talk about some of the hobbies that you have with schizophrenia. And if you wouldn't mind sharing, because like we were talking about your garden, and so if you would share about that, that'd be amazing.
I was working out in the garden today, actually. So some of my hobbies are gardening, and I'm trying really hard to stay active, like exercising, because the medications cause weight gain. So that's something that needs to be managed for me.
Yeah.
And for most people, we need to manage our weight so that we stay healthy.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you
so I
think?
would say, oh,
Oh, keep
pardon.
going.
I was going to say, health is so important to me that I maintain a healthy diet and exercise. That's a big part of my life as well.
I was gonna ask you how, since because I know the people we like there's such a correlation between physical health and mental health. It's not even do you feel like your symptoms have kind of improved because you've been, active more, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I think with psychosis it's a little bit different because I feel like the biggest thing that helps us is our medications, and just
Hmm.
like giving those medications time to work, you'll gradually get better. Even though like it's like walking into the mist. You don't realize that you're getting wet until you've walked all the way through it, and then you're like, "Oh, yeah, I'm actually wet." It's kind of the same. It's like you don't feel like you're getting better, but then you look back and you're like, wow, I've come a long way. Like a year ago, I couldn't even drive because I was too scared to drive because of everything that was happening to me. And now I can drive 2 hours straight, and I don't know.
That's exciting. I know
Yeah.
we were talking about like because I know you originally were going to school, but then you changed your career path. And
Mhm.
I really wanted to dive deep because I want to know, like, because I know within, because I know some people will say, like, they'll go to school and it may not feel like, how can I say this? Finding your passion, because you found a different career path. Am I correct?
Yeah. Well, I've changed so many times. I'm like the person that I've tried university, I've tried college, I've tried working on the farm, and I'm still looking for what it is that I'm passionate about. But I know that I like working in a business, and I know that I like working under people. Like I don't like being my own boss.
Yeah.
Even though it's nice to schedule your own life,
Hmm.
I like to have someone that can direct me in what I'm supposed to do.
That's so, I really like that. For a simple fact, like I've said this before, and I'll always say this, that like not everyone wants to be an entrepreneur and not everyone wants to have a job. It just depends on what's best for you. And the reason why I think it's so important that you sat there and you said, I think it's important that you sat there and said, I'm still looking, is because I feel like sometimes when we don't think we found the right thing, we'll start to self-sabotage ourselves, and we start to beat ourselves up because we didn't make this thing work. But I think it's just we haven't found the thing that's making us want to pursue it long enough. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're so right with that.
And I think I don't really think it has. I think because there's a lot of conversation around like, well, if you're mentally with mental health, um, it's harder. But I think if you have the right support and you find that thing that makes you light up inside, and everybody's diagnosis is different, I think more people would, want to do more. So, you know, I'm just kind of curious, like, what is some of the insights that you've learned in your own personal journey of, kind of trying to testing things out?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing that I've learned is that schizophrenia is not what it seems like, even though that's not really on track with what you were talking about. Um, I feel like it's so important to say that schizophrenia is not what it seems like. You
Yeah.
know, had it and I didn't even know.
Yeah, I think that was my point, right? Because it was kind of me trying to say, like, I was trying to like kind of put it together in a way of like, uh, when you get diagnosis, your life it's gonna be okay, right? Don't
Mm-hmm.
take these moments and judge yourself in these moments, you know.
Right. Yeah. And that you can look and see other people that have it and that live and strive and thrive and do so well. It's like I feel like we all need that image of someone that is achieving a lot while they have a mental illness. I think
Yeah,
that that's not seen very often, but we all need to be able to look up and say, oh, that person had depression, but they still accomplished all these different things. Or, oh, that person had psychosis, but they still accomplished so much. I think we all need those role models.
and I think, and that was one of my, because like Demi Lovato, and I have respect for her because she does have her psychosis still, right? And even though she goes through her psychosis period, I still notice that she does actively say I'm bipolar. And I think with schizophrenia, the only time I ever hear about schizophrenia is when someone's trying to fix it. And I never really hear about somebody actually just living with it and really embracing it. And so I wonder, I've always, like, I was talking to Aspie Girl about autism, and, I wonder if you put somebody who's schizophrenic in the right environment with the right resources and the right people, how much different their lives will be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure. I think the biggest thing that hinders people that have schizophrenia or psychosis is if they also have substance use issues. That's where your medications can't work as well. And, if you have substance abuse disorder, then you're also struggling with something that's going against you getting better.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even for me, marijuana use was so linked to my psychosis.
Really?
Yeah, I thought like when I would smoke weed, I would see these like colored orbs or like light colored, almost like looking like what a person would think was a ghost. And
Yes.
I thought that when I smoked weed, I could see ghosts. But here it was when I smoked weed, I have more psychosis.
That's very, very interesting that you say that, right? Because I know that's very controversial, and I'm going to say that we are neither doctors, and this is not medical advice; it's just our opinion. Uh, but
Yes.
I would actually go into that, right? Because there are more people in the marijuana community who is highly advocating about how, like, this is the answer. So when you
Mm-hmm.
say that, this is where I've talked about, it's very, very important to know thyself, but it's also important that you did tell, like, that's important. That's really important, because I think a lot of people who with mental disorders, they do heavily rely, well, not everyone, but some do rely on, like, marijuana and drugs to cope, right? Because it just seems so hard. So yeah, I'm really grateful you actually shared that.
Thank you. Yeah, I think for some people it works. If you don't have the genetic predisposition, you're
Hmm.
fine. But if you smoke weed and you get paranoid, there's a chance that you might be more susceptible to psychosis. But that's just my opinion. I'm not a doctor, like Ray said.
we're neither nor a doctor, but we're here to give insight, because there is so much more beauty to this, and I see so many women with schizophrenia that are just killing it. So they are, and I'm more excited to see them never give up and keep trying, because that's what life's about. I don't think anybody ever has it all figured out. Nobody.
Yeah.
So
And I think the biggest thing is like don't be afraid to try different things. If you find something and you don't like it, don't do it. Like life is too short to do what you don't like.
yes, oh my goodness, I was saying the same thing, right? Because it's like when you look at statistics around, well, because I'm trying, for me and myself, one of my biggest passions is to bring wellness into the neurodiverse community. And I know a lot of people are going to argue with me about schizophrenia and if it's neurodiverse, but it's important that people who have a different lifestyle or different like mental, they're just different mentally or physically or what have you, they have these, there's wellness in their life. Everyone deserves wellness, everybody. And
Mm-hmm.
so wellness is both your mental, physical, emotional health. And I think like doing something because someone else says it, or not doing something because someone says it, that doesn't make sense. Doing something because somebody says it will do something. Okay, basically not having self-awareness of your own diagnosis will help you, but to always take everything with a grain of salt, but to actually listen. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think that goes back to what you said, know thyself.
Yeah.
You have to know, like, just because someone says, oh, like, um, this career path is so good for me, you should do
Mhm.
it. You have to figure out what works for you. And that's the beauty of getting to know yourself, is like, it doesn't really matter what other people say sometimes, because, you have to find the right road for yourself.
Yes. And I think there should be more conversation because I know like some people, one of the biggest conversations that are around, I don't know, I'm not really sure about the schizophrenia community because I'm not really active in that community sense, but I know a lot of people say stability is really, really hard for somebody who has schizophrenia. But then I also ask me, but what does, like, everybody's like, do you have any advice on that, like stability around like career or like life, or like what insights could you actually give?
I would say the biggest thing would be, if you are early diagnosed and you're listening to this, is to find an early psychosis intervention program. They're so helpful. And if you don't have that social support, there'll be that social support for you, because social support has helped me so much. My family has been like caring for me and there for me when I was sick. They would take me to appointments. And I think that social support is so important. And that's why I say EPIP is like, it's the way to go, I would say.
I think that's amazing. I actually think that having one of my friends, he's starting because he had brain trauma, and so he's trying to start his own like re re rehabilitation.
Rehabilitation.
Yes, home for people who've had brain with people who really struggle with addiction or people who've ever struggled with a brain disorder. And I think a lot of people, like somebody said that if you ever want to stop something, like whenever you're trying to change your lifestyle, be around people who have the lifestyle that you want so that they can support you. And I definitely agree. That was one of the main reasons I wanted to bring coexistent um, to life, was because I wanted to have a community of people that could support each other and to understand each other. And, when I first started talking to you, I was like, it just made me feel so good, right? Because when
Uh,
you think about somebody with schizophrenia, you see such a harsh life. And it's like I just feel like when you have somebody close to you and you see them struggling with it, you feel so hopeless. So I'm hoping that we can get more people to be open about their diagnosis and have more insights and more conversations around this and how we can help each other, because I know there's a will. If there's a will, there's a way. And so, yeah, that's why I would love talking to you, because you're very, very like amazing.
oh, thank you, Ray. You're so sweet.
So,
Um,
yeah.
I think that everybody needs to be able to see like success and schizophrenia together,
Yeah.
because I feel like it is neurodiversity, and like we're very intelligent people. And not to say that everybody is and not to say that everybody isn't. There's a spectrum of everything. And I feel like seeing the uniqueness of each person is important too.
Yes. Yes. I think I was just talking to Aspie Girl about the same conversation around like, you're like, you're always like, your diagnosis isn't you. You are you. So be you. Um, the best you that you can be who you want to be. Live. Success doesn't really have to be, we were talking about this too, about how a lot of people confuse success, because success is happiness. Like, success isn't happiness, but it's what you want it to be. So
Exactly. And that's where like, even like for me, maybe for some other people driving 2 hours is nothing, but like for me, being able to drive 2 hours now is like a huge success.
Yeah, and celebrating your wins. Like I run groups with people, and I'm like they will tell me all the things they've done, but then they'll sit there and they'll talk about all the things that they missed, and they're more focused on the things that they miss. And so I think that's really, really important that you said that, because I think sometimes we compare ourselves to the wrong people, and especially at different stages of where everyone's diagnosis is. So yeah. So, but it's almost 7 o'clock, and I know it's later for you because you're not in the States. So I'm going to end this soon. Is there anything else you would like to add?
Hmm. Well, I just want to say thank you for bringing me on here and giving me a chance to share my story and to speak to people that may be going through something similar. And I just want to say, anyone, whatever you're going through, don't give up, because life is so worth it and you'll find a better place soon.
Yes. Okay, thank you so much for coming. You're like phenomenal.
All right. I wish I could say like amazing things, but I'm so shy. I'm like, I feel like you're so outgoing, and I'm so grateful that you have started Coexistent, and I hope that it becomes something amazing and big and beautiful, like you deserve.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you so much. I'll actually message you a little bit later. Well, probably tomorrow because it's late. So, bye.
Bye, Ray. Thank you.